Oh, don't stare. How would you look after eons in some ghastly crypt? Your people are rather prone to death. Mine are not. Yet when I emerged from my completely unjustified imprisonment, I found them gone. Our culture forgotten. Any trace of the world I knew all but obliterated. I must even hide my true face beneath an ever-shifting mask for fear you savages will attack me. That is how I wander this strange world. Trying to uncover the truth about a history you primitive people never even knew existed.
It all happened like I knew it would. A single drop of source magic. And, like flies to honey, the monsters swarmed. The rebel panicked. The carnage began. And the Magisters pointed their fingers at me. Just as I'd planned. I was shackled and collared, and sent to Fort Joy. I'd come here to kill Godwoken. But instead I became part of their story.
Well now, aren't you a curious sight? If I'd had a mask to hide my bones as well as yours, maybe I'd still be walking around today. Where'd you get it? There can't be many curios like that in the world. Ha! Fresh out of the crypt, are you? No, we are abnormal. It's why we hide in the shadows. Or walk about like you still had flesh on your bones in your case. You even have yourself a silky mortal voice. Ha! Should have known it was a parlour gimmick. Still, you'd best keep that mask on. The living don't take kindly to seeing their future staring back at them.
Ah, you're up. Yes. Looks like that collar fits you snugly enough. Nice bit of work, even if I do say so myself.
Ooh.
There. Not too tight, I hope. The collar, I mean. Oh, not to worry. Every dog has to get used to it. In the meantime, your next stop will be Magister William. All passengers have to be registered in the ship's manifest, and he's the chap in charge of the logs. You'll find him on the other side of this deck, in the officers' quarters.
Did the murderer take you into this room? Or was he already?
No, you're alive, and you're having a conversation. You are on a ship, of course. But luckily for us both, we're merely sailing the plain old sea.
Index fingers pressed to her lips, she pauses a moment to give you a scrutinizing gander.
My word, you do seem a bit befuddled, don't you? Perhaps I was a bit too generous with that sedative. Oh well, I'm sure you'll soon gather your wits. Most likely. Eventually. In the meantime, all you need to know is that we're en route to Fort Joy. A new life awaits. And if you're a particularly good boy, perhaps a cure as well. An end to Source. For good. Why, for my peace of mind, of course. Why don't you try casting one of those Source spells of yours? See what happens.
Currents of magic surge inside you, boiling, bursting, then breaking, only to fade back into your soul like rain into the earth.
You better stop before you hurt yourself. All will, but no result. There you have it, see? The collar's function. It neuters you, of sorts. Makes you unable to cast Source. For your own peace of mind, of course. Yours and the whole world's.
No known associates. In fact, he seemed quite averse to spending
Good
time.
gods, there's been a murder here.
Ugly sight, isn't it? Burns me up this happened under our protection. We're extremely lucky no Voidwalker followed the source that did this.
She looks up at you with a
I was on duty in your room when the murder happened. You were asleep the whole time. You're one of the only indisputably innocent people on the ship. Unless you can commit murder in your sleep, of course. Not with that collar on, you aren't. Listen, I could use someone to keep their ears open among the passengers. Sometimes they clam up in front of a uniform. Bring me a good lead, and I'll throw in a shiny gold coin for you. How about that?
These spelling sorts are strong stuff.
Think about it. It's one of you who got killed, not one of us. We want to find who did it and bring them to justice. Who's your real enemy here? You let me know if you hear anything. Whoever did this is dangerous.
Behind the Magister, a bloodied mass lies in a heap. Gore and limbs lie at odd angles. You can't make out a face amid the mess.
There's been a murder. A sorcerer was killed by one of your own. Lucky you were busy getting your collar fitted at the time, or you'd be a suspect like the rest of them. Waters is investigating. She'll figure out who did it. Always does. Move along.
A young Magister stands pale and silent. Her knuckles whiten around her weapon as you pass.
The hatch is blocked. I'll need to find another way.
Come on, please, Lothar. Be good, you scallywags.
It was one of them. I know it.
Would you put a knuckle in it? I'm trying to concentrate.
They don't care. Cattle to them.
I'll give you that knuckle if you keep carrying on.
Ah, there you are. Husband. Would you please tell this very charming gaggle of not-at-all brat-like babes that I am by no accounts this Losa woman, nor do I sing, in fact. I'm deathly, deathly allergical.
What are you trying to hear anyway?
How very correct you are, spouse of mine. Madame Josephine Gribbles de Peeb refuses to be confused with anyone else. What? What's so funny?
Her pinched face cracks into a great grin, and she shoos the children away from her with a laugh.
Yeah, okay, you found me out. Go on and git, and maybe I'll sing you something when I'm good and ready.
She turns to you, dark-eyed and dirty-haired, and smiles flatly.
Gotta keep ourselves entertained, haven't we?
It was one of them. I know it.
You presume right.
They don't care about us. We're like cattle to them.
I'll give you that knuckle if you keep carrying on.
Thanks, but I already belong to an elite and exclusive ship gang. We play ball every day after lunch. You take care, though. Nope, trying not to find anything out either. Ignorance is bliss. The utterer, the better.
Suddenly, her eyes cloud to an unnatural black. Greyish veins run down her face, and her mouth tightens into a cruel sneer. As quickly as they came, the clouds clear. She smiles as though no change came over her.
Good luck, Chief.
That right. I always knew you'd turn out rotten, Ben Nest. Your kind always...
You one of them? A divine order loyal? They killed a sorcerer, you know. They'll hide the evidence well enough, but make no mistake.
As soon as the Inquisitor gets here, we'll hang you right over the side of this ship with him.
A broad dwarf sits totally upright on the bench, eyes closed, palms face up on his knees. His beard is a cascade of meticulous plaits, each one braided through with golden medallions. He raises an eyebrow as you approach, but doesn't open his eyes.
Listen up, boy. You hear that?
He turns his head toward you, looking you up and down, and smiles before turning his attention to the ship once more.
You look like a boy to me. Listen if you're interested, or get gone if you aren't.
I've seen more appetizing things coming out of plague
The ship, of course.
A wave of sound washes over you. The unintelligible chatter of your shipmates, the groaning of wood from floor to ceiling, the boom, crash and crackle of waves around you, complaints from the sea itself.
and I don't intend to do away with the custom.
And?
Well, there has been a murder, Your Majesty. Maybe that has the Magisters more concerned than your appetite.
Sick as a leper's cat. From the state of it, I'd say she's being cared for by a bunch of beardless babes who never loved anyone but their own mums. But there's more. Listen close. There now, just like that. Aha!
His eyes snap open as his countenance breaks into an expression of joy. One great paw claps you on the back, the other catches you before you lose your footing.
There. You heard it, didn't you? I knew it. I knew it. Aye, this is good news, boy. Good news. No, you beautiful idiot. That wasn't any rat. It was the wheel. Squeaks whenever the helmsman jerks it clockwise, which means we're heading east. Burn my beard. That means if we've been traveling for, yes, only 10.34 nautical miles to Fort Joy.
That right? I always knew you'd turn out dropped and Ben Nest. Your kind always hung closest to our divine, like wolves around a campfire.
Captain, actually. And that figure tells me we're getting close to the joy. Close to what lies beyond it, too.
The dwarf leans back from the table and strokes his beard, gold medallions jingling merrily. His eyes roll over to you.
That'll be all. Thank you kindly, boy.
There's nothing else I can make, Your Majesty. Turnips and water.
He continues stroking his beard, a beatific smile on his lips, and doesn't acknowledge you anymore.
And I don't intend to do away with the custom.
Well, there has been a murder. I spent my life singing for my slaves to bring me my supper. Finer fare than boiled roots and rotten. Meanwhile, the Magisters feast on honeyed meat behind this very wall. The indignity.
Would you put a knuckle in it? I'm trying to concentrate.
They don't care about us.
Well, what have we here? A fresh face in this stale hell. Let's size you up, shall we? See if you'll do.
The lizard looks you up and down, like a farmer would a fetching horse. All of a sudden, he grips you firmly by the chin, with the intent of inspecting your teeth.
Insufferable, surely.
What are you trying to hear anyway?
There's some discoloration, as well as a rather disconcerting lack of tongue and gums, but I've seen worse. After all, one can't expect to find prime merchandise on a squalid little ship like this. Now then, to business. You will answer me 3 questions. The first one is this. Can you cook?
That right? I always knew you'd turn out dropped and Ben Nest.
In which case, I take it your cuisine is limited to the introduction of eggs to hot water. How disappointing. On to the second question. Can you knit, weave? In short, tailor?
As soon as the Inquisitor gets here, we'll hang you right over the side of this ship with him.
It was one of them. I know it.
Oh, but to feel the caress of satin on my scarlet skin once more. A most satisfactory answer indeed. On then to my final query. Have you the ability to administer the upkeep of one's personal appearance? The delicate art of cosmetics is what I'm after.
Can we just skip to the part where I reassure you and you shut up? Mad?
The very basics, then. I suppose that's a start. So, 3 questions asked, 3 questions answered. Let's evaluate, shall we? As per your own testimony, you can tailor and groom, but you have the taste buds of a dung beetle. Still, beggars can't be choosers. So without further ado, I offer you my sincerest congratulations. As of now, you are my slave.
Got this wolf on a leash now.
My slave, of course. Oh, but I see. Yes, I suppose it must take some time for the full extent of this honor to sink in. Anyway, you may leave me for a moment. We'll go over your duties once we reach Fort Joy. Now shoo!
There's a killer about, after all.
Till overboiling a bit of cabbage becomes a crime, I shall hold my head steady.
A scruffy man lounges against the wall with scarred arms folded. A sly smile playing on his face, he stares across at the Magister guarding him. Noticing you, he straightens and beckons for you to come closer.
Watch your back, new fish.
There's a murderer on board, and I'd bet 3 months' pay it's this tramp Fane.
Rolling his eyes at the Magister's warning, the man named Fane beckons again. He leans in and adjusts your collar with a sharp tug, balancing its weight so it no longer presses unpleasantly on your neck. He winks.
Pinches less that way, right?
Hocking a phlegmy gobbet in your general direction, the sullen Magister settles back to his task of glowering at Fane. And now, you.
We used to know each other, more's the pity. I was his commander many, many, many moons ago. Isn't that right, Vic?
Standing far back from Fane, the tight-faced Magister draws one finger across his throat in an elaborate fashion, but says nothing. Fane grins, flashing pointed white teeth.
Same as he was at 14 years old. Only difference is somebody gave him a bigger sword and now he's Johnny Big Pants. Long story. Maybe I'll tell you about it in the Joy. Away from interested parties. No. The dead man, Fane, is it? I'd no business with him. And I wouldn't put a man down without good reason.
He glances over at Magister Victor, who's staring back at him with pointed intensity.
Damn shame sheer annoyance isn't reason enough. The Joy, I've heard a lot. Nothing good. No surprise there, since Bishop Alexander runs the show. Wonder if we'll get to meet the ringmaster himself.
Well, there has been a murder, Your Majesty. Maybe that has the Magister's more concern than your appetite.
Don't you get saucy with me when you clearly don't know the first thing about sauce.
Easy now. I might think the same, but Vic here will blow a blood vessel if he hears you talking like that.
What are you conspiring about over there? You! What's your name?
Oh, don't mind him. Vic's just got a bee in his bonnet. And that bee is me.
Name?
I'll give you that knuckle if you keep carrying on. One of us would kill our own.
Magister Victor looks at you suspiciously, then scrawls something illegible down in a tiny notebook. He scowls at you as he stows the notebook back in his voluminous robes.
Away with you, at once.
Fane performs an elaborate pantomime of keeping quiet, one finger in front of his lips as he leans back against the wall.
Never thought you'd end up a prison guard, Vic.
That right. I always knew you'd turn out rotten, Ben Mest. Your kind always hung closest to our divine, like wolves around a campfire.
An elf sits tucked away in a dark spot, lazily rolling dice onto the surface of a barrel. They sound like the dry cackling of an old witch.
Snake eyes.
She chuckles.
I bet that's just what they'll look like. Rolling dice. Deciding fates. Don't worry, honey. It isn't yours.
She looks you up and down with the merest hint of a coy smile on her lips.
Never say never, though.
She eyes you quite seriously.
Not the future, no. But I can read the past in flesh. One of the perks of being an elf, you see. I'm quite good at it, too. I could lick your arm and tell you how you spent the night before last. Shall I?
She looks at you in surprise when you bare an arm of bone.
My. Guess I'll have to find out the memory from Marrow, won't I?
She gives your arm a vigorous stroke of the tongue, efficient like a cat grooming.
You were in a cellar with other sorcerers, watching, staring at them, hoping that none would stare back. You were desperate to speak up, to reach out, to form a connection with these strange creatures. But you were scared, terrified even. of what they might think of you.
I'll tell you if you can keep it quiet long enough for me to listen.
She pats you on the shoulder consolingly.
There, don't you worry, darling. Your secret's safe with me. I don't lick and tell.
Name? The Divine Order wants to know. Well, you aren't here on my list. Scrammy, we're trying to catch a killer here.
This slop was food. I've seen more appetizing things coming out of plague-stricken pigs.
Here to register, sir. Good, good. Magister Williams is just about done with the last passenger. You faring okay so far?
He tugs the collar of his uniform and chuckles.
Sorry you're upset, sir, but we all wear what we wear for... You head on in now. Williams will get you sorted fast.
Don't you get saucy with me when you clearly don't know the first thing about sauce.
And if she tries...
Standing at the center of the room, you spot a sorcerer haughtily eyeing a pair of nervous-looking magisters. They keep their crossbow trained upon her as she's being interrogated by an officer.
So you admit it then? You murdered that poor fella?
Yes, I did. But of course, that was only the beginning.
She turns her head and looks you straight in the eye.
There are others whose lives must end.
Good God, the woman's mad. You there, sorcerer, go and fetch Magister Siwan. We need to do more than collar this maniac. We need to shackle her, hands and feet.
It means your journey draws to a close. Do stick around for its finale, though, because...
She reaches for her collar and simply removes it.
I'm just about to create a scene.
Subdue her, men, quickly! If she casts Source, the Voidwoken will come. They'll end us all.
She smiles with wicked satisfaction.
Precisely.
My mask! She stole it. If these savages see me without it, they will have my skull for a goblet.